And all right, we are live. Guys, welcome into the training. Today is going to be an absolutely fun one because today we're going to be talking about job costing, but not just any old job costing. We're going to be talking about how we can utilize AI and some really smart tools to do it. So think about this, guys. The future of job management is here, smarter, faster, and more profitable for every single job that you build. And the reason I wanted to record this class, honestly, it's because of how excited that I am about the opportunity that we have in front of us right now as contractors. We are sitting at a moment where we have access to tools and things that we have never had before. And these are some really cool tools that are going to allow you to do a lot of things, like actually understand your numbers, see exactly where your jobs are making or losing you money, and most importantly, tools that we can use to fix it. So by the end of this, I'm going to show you how to connect all this together into a system where you no longer have to guess how much money you're making and you know exactly what's going on in your business, if your jobs are profitable, and all kinds of good stuff like that. So specifically, what we're going to dive into is stuff that I am genuinely excited about because I'm going to be showing you the exact job costing sheet that we built to track job costs on every single job, and how all of that feeds into a dashboard that actually shows you your margins. It shows you your crews, it shows you your trades, and it puts all your costs and job costs in one place. And then I'm going to show you how to actually see which jobs are actually making you money in your business. And guys, this is going to be some really powerful stuff because we're going to talk about how to use the AI to analyze your jobs, find where you're overspending, break things down line by line, and not just that, but to actually give you actionable insights and how you can make a difference in your business. And we're going to look at some of those specialized prompts, GPTs that act like project managers, and we're going to zoom out and look at the full system. So we're going to talk about pre-job budgets, contracting, variance analysis, and how to actually run a profitable production department. And the really cool thing about what I have planned today is we're not just going to talk about it. This isn't just theory. I'm going to actually show you inside real life tools so you can see how this all works. Now, before we get too deep into this, why does all this matter? I want you to think about this for a second. Job-related costs make up about 50% of your revenue. 50%. So before you pay for anything like your billing, your trucks, your office staff, half of your money is already gone just like that. And that's for companies that are actually running their business at decent margins. A lot of companies are actually spending way more money than that. So let that sink in. If we want any shot at running a profitable business, we have to get this right. This is one of the most important things that you as a business owner can focus on. This should be at the top of every business owner's list. But here's the reality. Most contractors have a rough idea of their job profitability. They might have a general sense of cost, but there's nowhere near the level of tracking, focus, and attention that there should be for something that takes away half of the revenue or the money that you bring into your business. You know, as business owners, we often spend time on pretty insignificant stuff, right? Like maybe fixing a truck that broke down, or we're looking at some overtime on one employee's payroll, or we're putting out some random fire in the business. Meanwhile, the biggest expense category that we have in our entire business is barely being tracked. So today is all about changing that. The goal is simple. We want to put a real structure around job costing and give you visibility into the numbers and help you make more money. But here's the important part. I don't want you walking away from this workshop thinking, man, this is going to take me hours every single day to do something like this, or thinking that this is a bunch of busy work, because that is not the goal. I want to give you a system that doesn't require constant oversight, doesn't take you hours a day, and gives you the right information that as a leader to make actionable moves on your business. And then we layer AI on top of that, and that's where things get super interesting. All right, so I've told you enough about it. Let's actually get into it. And probably the best way to do this is actually walk you through the sheet that we use, because once you see this, it starts to click pretty fast. And we're going to pull it up in just a minute, but as a business owner, I want you to understand that one of the best ways to use this system is the dashboard. And as a leader, this is where you should be spending a good amount of your time, because this is going to give you the 30,000 foot view of what's going on in your business, what's going on with your jobs. And at a glance, you're going to be able to see total revenue. You're going to be able to see the gross profit that's left after the job costs for your jobs. You're going to be able to see gross margin percent, total jobs completed, average job size, and all of that kind of good stuff. So let's actually pull it up. And I'm actually going to pull up our example file here. here, and we're going to go over to the dashboard, and I want you to check this out. So right here at the top, at a glance, we see how much revenue that our team has built, how much gross profit or money that we've made off of that $689,000 in revenue, what that is from a gross margin percentage point, how many total jobs have made up that amount, and what our average job size is. So at a quick high level, as a business owner, I'm already seeing a ton of information that I can look at and start making decisions off of. Now, where this really starts to get fun is now I can dive in a level deeper. So I can see how much revenue each one of my sales reps is bringing into the business. I can scan through and see which trades are actually making me money or making me a good margin. For example, at a quick glance, I can see that its repairs are one of my highest margin types of jobs, followed by deck repairs. Then we got wood fences, so on and so forth. But now I can start to optimize where I'm making money. And that's really just a starting point, because now I can look at the same thing by my crews. So with this type of information, I can see which crews are actually making me money and which crews aren't. Which crews are wasting materials, which crews are inefficient, which crews am I overpaying, and frankly, which crews do I want to utilize more and which crews do I want to stop utilizing? Or which crews can I coach up to make their jobs more profitable? And then I can start diving into my different types of expenses. At a glance, I can see the biggest piece of the pie that I'm spending my job cost on is materials, then sublabor, all the way down to my other expenses. And if we go all the way down to the bottom here, I can see my top 5 most profitable jobs, because now I can figure out what has worked so well on these jobs that has made them so profitable, so I can duplicate that into a reputable system. And guys, this is where you stop guessing about the profitability of your jobs and you actually start to identify patterns. Now, one thing that we didn't talk about on the dashboard is the ability to filter. And guys, this is a big deal, because with the filter at the top here, we can see what is working right now, where we're at year to date. We can look back at the past month. We can look back at the past week, the current week. This gives us a bunch of options that within a click of a button, boom, the entire dashboard is updated. So this can give me real-time insights where I can look at a bigger period of time to see how we perform. So with this type of information, I'm able to quickly pivot and make moves that are going to help us grow the business. For example, when I look at this and I change it to this month, I see that Tyler, one of my sales reps here, is absolutely killing it. I can see that the most profitable crew that I've had this month is crew B. So guys, once you get your hands on this, you'll actually want to use these filters, put them to use to see how you're performing right now and look at the bigger picture. Because this lets you compare performance, spot trends, look at specific time periods, and this is where you start thinking like a true operator of your business. The next place that we want to go in the job profit system is the input tab, because this is where all your job data actually lives. This is where you enter jobs, this is where you track costs, and this is where you see performance at the job level. And this is where you start making real money, because now you're not just looking at the business as a whole, you're looking at individual jobs, and this is where things start to stand out. You start to notice jobs that don't look right, costs that feel off, trends across multiple jobs, and this is where you start dialing things in. So let's actually dive into it. So this looks like a lot of information, because it is, right? This is 3 months worth of job data input into a sheet. Now, the cool thing about this is we've set this up really easy to make it where you can enter your jobs in here. So whether you do it or you have a team member dedicated to inputting this information, you can see all the costs and profitability of your individual jobs. So let me put one in here as an example. So if I double click here, let's say this job started on March 10th, and we'll double click here, completed this job out on the 18th. And next we will enter in our job number here. So we'll put in 1050. This is a residential project. And before I finish putting this in, I want to show you guys something. So I want you to lock this $314,000 revenue number in, because I want to show you how real-time and interactive this is. So we'll come over here and we'll select that this is a wood fence. Crew C did this build. Project manager was Dan and sales rep was Tyler. And this job is closed out. It was $22,899 and it's fully collected. And we spent $6,800 on materials, $5,250 on labor, $300 on direct labor, mill equipment rental, no permit required, 200 books and disposal fees, nothing in other. So we got total cost here of $12,550, a gross profit of $10,348.45. And this customer paid on full on 3/18, the day of the job was done. And boom, within less than a minute there, we got in all of our job cost information for that job. Now, I told you to lock in that number that was on the dashboard because now you can see it went from 318,000 to 337. And guys, basically wanted to show you that because it took less than a minute to enter in a job, and now my entire dashboard is updated. So imagine if you had your production team at the end of every project, close out a job, take the 1 minute that it takes to input this information, and now you have a real-time dashboard with feedback that you can use to see the profitability of your jobs. And guys, if this looks overwhelming, I promise it's super simple. Simply typing in some numbers, selecting from some drop-downs, and it's doing all the hard work and math and formulas and all that kind of stuff for you. And here's the cool part. When you get a copy of this sheet, you get the examples so you can see how this works, but it's super customizable. You get a completely blank version, or you can customize the example that we give you, but we make it super simple. So you can see my job types here, my trades here, my crews here. If I wanted to add another crew here, like if I typed in Mike's crew, and I went back over to the input tab here, now when I go to select a crew, I can select the Mike's crew, right? So super, super simple to input information. Now, the other thing I'll show you, if I put in another job here, and we'll make this J1051, and for this Thomas Redlinks. This is a residential project. Did a vinyl fence. Project manager was Mike. Crew was Jake. This job is closed out. It's a $15,845 project. It's fully paid. And just to show you, see how some of these have remaining balances, that's so you can track your open AR as well. Spent $48,950 in materials, $36.80 in labor, $150 here, $150 at equipment rental, no permanent fees, $150 in disposal, no other costs. This job was paid in full on the 20th. So now that we have this new job in with our new crew that we added, and we head over to our dashboard and we scroll down, boom, now we already see that Mike's crew has been added to the dashboard. So like I said, super easy to customize and set up. Within 5 minutes, you can be up and running with this thing. You go into the settings, put in the information for your company, input a job in less than a minute, and you are off to the races, tracking your job costs and getting that information in a nice, clean dashboard to make decisions from. So now that you see the system operating, let's get a little more strategic with this. So as you start tracking your individual jobs, now you can set targets, right? Because now you start to see actual insights and you start to get an idea of where your expenses are. And when you start looking at those top 5 most profitable jobs, you start looking at and say, well, if that job was so profitable, how do I build more jobs like that? Well, you look at what happened on those jobs. For example, you might notice on those 5 jobs that are your most profitable, you were able to keep materials under 25% and you were able to keep labor under 22%. Well, now you can start challenging your team and say, hey, the standard is we build jobs that material is less than 25% and labor is less than 22%. And now every single job that you build has a benchmark. Every single job that you build becomes measurable and you have targets that your team is shooting for. And this is where it flips because you're no longer asking, did we make money? You're asking, hey, did we hit our targets? And when you don't, now you go find out why. So what does this actually look like in real life? Well, let's say you're reviewing a job and you immediately notice the margin is off. Well, now you can go into that job right inside the input tab and you can look at the different expense categories and usually something jumps out right away. When I'm in here and I'm scanning through this job, for example, has a 42.6% material. This job has a 40% material and everything else is averaging around 30 to 31%. So that jumps out immediately because it's so far away from the other jobs. And I bet if I scroll out to the right over here and look at the margin on this job, it's going to be significantly lower And boom, guess what? It's 18.79%, just significantly lower than most of my jobs, right? So now I can dive into this job and figure out what happened. Well, one, I can see material expenses are astronomically high. I can see that labor is high compared to the average. And now I can figure out how to implement systems to prevent jobs like this happening, right? And if I really wanted to, at the top of each one of these categories, we could add in an average like so. And I can see that my average materials on a job is 30.7%. So now as we build out jobs, any job that is above that average should be reviewed. And I could do that for every single category. And I'll actually build this into the sheet. So when you get a copy of it, it's already there. You already know. And there we go. And I'll fix this one later because it's picking all the zeros up at the bottom. But at a glance, guys, you're going to know how each job is performing compared to the average of all your other jobs. So by just quickly examining your jobs in that sheet when something is off margin, it's usually going to jump right out to you. And when we think back to our example, for example, materials looks too high. Well, now you dig in. You might find that, and we double ordered some materials on this, right? We never got those credits for the returns that we took back, or we never did the return in the first place, or our supplier charged us the wrong price. That's not our contracted price, or you really dig into it and maybe materials were wasted. But the key is now instead of guessing, you actually know what happened. Guys, this is super simple to run. This isn't complicated. You can enter jobs manually, just like I showed you. It took me less than 1 minute to enter a job in, or if I really want to, I can export a group of jobs from our CRM or from our QuickBooks file, and you can assign someone on your team to manage it, and every single day, jobs get input that feed that dashboard. And guys, everything I showed you so far, just that alone is super, super powerful and can save you tens of thousands of dollars per month. But it wouldn't be fun if we stopped right there. So let's take this a lot further, because I said it at the beginning, we are in unprecedented times with technology, and this is where AI starts to change everything. And guys, let's be real, most people are using AI like it's Google. They ask a question, they get an answer, and don't get me wrong, that is useful, but that is not the power that AI gives us. The real power of AI is when it has access to your data, because with access to your data, now it has context. Now it can identify patterns. Now it has history of your performance, and now it can actually help you improve. So what does this look like in real life? Well, instead of guessing at things, when AI has access to your data, you can ask it really smart questions like, what jobs are making us the most money? Or why are those jobs making us the most money? And you can ask it things like, where are we losing money? And then you go deeper. And this is where it starts compounding, because let's say that the AI finds that you are overspending on your material expenses. Well, now you can ask it, what are the industry benchmarks or companies like mine? And let's say it comes back and it tells you, well, top contractors are around 25%. We talked about targets just a minute ago. Well, now you have a target. You know that if top contractors in your industry about your size are spending 25% on your material costs, if you're spending over that, you need to find out why. Right? You need better terms with your vendors. Do you have estimating issues? Do you have pricing issues? Are you having excessive waste? Or do you have process breakdowns that are causing you to overspend on materials? And now you're not just guessing at this, now you actually have a direction. And we wanted to make this super simple for you. So we actually put together an AI profit playbook, which is an entire document of questions that are built specifically for this. Because with this profit playbook, you can actually start asking the right questions, and it really opens up everything for you. And I'll pull it up real quick so you can see what I'm talking about. Right, so at the top here, we just have some general questions you can ask about building your jobs more profitably. But we've actually broken this down into different sections, right? So getting real profit and financial insights out of each of your jobs. How you actually control your material expenses and other costs. Now, which of your crews are performing the best? Which ones are being inefficient? On the sales team, who is selling the most profitable jobs? And a bunch of questions to ask about that. And on and on and on. We broke this down into so many different ways you can ask AI to give you actionable insights. And I love these down at the bottom, the power user prompts, saying things like, if you were my COO, what would you fix first? If this was a $50 million company, what would they be doing differently with this data? What are top 1% contractors doing that we can learn from? To just a ton of good information you can get from AI here. And the cool part about this is over time, The more data that you give to AI, the smarter it gets. So think about this. As you're costing out your jobs, you can start uploading job measurements. You can actually upload the material invoices for those jobs. You can upload the work orders that your crews charge you for on those jobs. And now it can do the hard work to identify waste for you. It can find the items that you misscoped or estimated wrong. And this compounds because the more information that you get it, the smarter that it gets and the more it understands about your business. And in just a second, I'm going to walk you through that, but I want to talk about an advanced layer real quick, and this is for the higher level people that are very comfortable with tech and AI, so I won't stay on this long. But if you really might go deeper, you can take a lot of the prompts and stuff that we provide, and we actually show you how to turn this into a custom GPT in our files here, like an advanced GPT system where it shows you how to build this out. Super detailed, shows you how to plug everything in exactly. But with a tool like that, you can build a custom GPT. And think about it like this. Imagine having a custom ChatGPT or whatever LLM that you use that acts like a high-level CFO and industry standard production management team that understands job profitability. It has access to your job profit data. It knows your benchmarks and industry benchmarks, and it learns over time. And it's like having a production manager at the highest level on your team, a CFO, an analyst, all working with your data. Pretty powerful stuff. So guys, I know I'm throwing a lot at you all at once. So I want to walk you through this thing A to Z, what this looks like, how we actually operate this inside of our business. So here's what it looks like from a high level. A job is sold, it's turned into our production team. Well, the first thing that we want to do as a production team is actually see how much this job should cost us if everything goes right. So when a new job comes in, we look over everything and we actually build out the material orders for it. We build out the work orders for it. And before we ever think about building the job, we build a pre-job forecast for that job. And what that's going to do is tell us exactly how much money this job should make us. Then we're going to build that job and we're going to record the job actuals in our job profit system on this tab here. And then when it's all said and done, we're going to do what we call a variance analysis. That's going to compare those job actuals against that job forecast to see where things went right and where things went wrong. And one of the really cool things, guys, about doing this process is we know before we even build the job how profitable this job can be. Because at that point, you know what the job was sold for and you know what it should cost you. So now you know the profitability before the job even starts. Now you can hold your team accountable to building it at that level of profit. Now, we have a lot of templates that make this kind of stuff super easy. You know, material order templates, work order templates, and you can set these up so that have all the predefined costs. And building one of these pre-job forecasts might take you 5 minutes, might take you 10 minutes. If it's a super complex job, maybe 15 to 20 minutes, but it's worth it to save thousands of dollars every single month as you build your jobs. So let me actually show you what that looks like. So if we go in here, and what I'm going to do here is I'm going to duplicate our job cost analysis sheet here. So I'll hit make a copy. We'll rename this. We'll call it 10896 Thompson Project Job Cost Analysis. We'll hit OK. We'll open that sheet up. And this has already got some info in it. We'll wipe it out here so you can see it from start to finish. Wipe all that out. Take all that out. Take that all out. And one thing I want to show you, in the item catalog, we have a bunch of our expenses, all that stuff already set up in here with item names, their cost, the unit. If we want to look at pricing and the margin, we got all that there. And if I were doing this from scratch, I would actually come in here and create a work order. So you can see I already got one here as an example. That is line by line what it's going to take to build that job. Right? And if I want to add things, now that I have all my products, I click this drop down and let's say I need an extra gate hardware kit and I just need one of those, put that there and boom, it puts all this information in. I can scroll down to the bottom. I got my tax rate. We can update that if we need to, but it tells me my grand total for my material is $5,074 for this project. I can copy that, come over to our job cost analysis tab and paste that in there. And now we got our material cost in. And we're going to put Thompson Project. We'll say this is a wood fence This contract was for $16,899. And we are using crew. We'll use Mike's crew here. And now let's go over to our work order. And we would build this all out. And again, works just like the material order. I have all my different labor items that I can select. Only got a few in here for this example. And works just the same. Come down to the bottom, grab my total, copy that, go back to my analysis tab here, paste that in. No, let's say we had $100 at direct labor on this, $150 at equipment rental, no permit, $200 in disposal, no other. And I can see that this job is going to come in at a really low gross profit on the forecast. And as a production manager, I have an option here. If our target for our jobs is 50% and this thing is coming in before we even build it at a 27.2%, I can make a decision. Does it make sense to even build this job? Or do we need to go back and say to the homeowner, hey, we misscoped this. In order for us to build this, we need this up around 19,000, right? That's one option. Option two is I can try to build it as profitable as possible to come in above this 27.2% or worst case scenario, 27.2% and move forward with the job. Or option three is I can walk away from it and say, hey, unfortunately, we're not going to make any money on this project. We're not going to build it, right? But by having this job forecast, that's one of the cool things that I can do. And when the job is done, well, now I can plug in my actual information. Let's say we were able to find some materials we had at the shop. We were able to save on a few things, and we actually got this to come in at $4,500.99. Sub labor, we were actually able to get it at $65.86. Direct labor, we went just over there. We actually decided not to rent any equipment to save some money here. Nothing on permits, and we had our $200 in disposal and no other costs. Well, you can see that at the end of the job, it still came in red because it didn't hit our target. All right, our target's 50%. However, it did come in 5 points better than our forecast. And by having our forecast, we were able to make some strategic decisions, like not renting the equipment to bring this job in more profitably. And I can see from a line-by-line basis here where we were able to save some money. We saved 3.4% on materials, 1.1% in sub labor. We were a little over in our direct labor. And this is all color-coded automatically. Just by inputting your numbers, it knows whether that should be green or red. We give you quick insights into every single job. And guys, this is a process that we do on every single job because it can save you so much money. And at the end of every single job, we can know whether we actually won or lost. We're not just guessing. As we're going through this process from there, those actuals that we just put on this sheet here can all easily get plugged in to our sheet here. So I would go through line by line from our job cost analysis sheet and enter those in. So that way we got another job that's feeding our full dashboard. And now everything is connected. And where this gets really powerful is now that you have this level of tracking, you can start asking better questions. For example, you notice materials are high across multiple jobs. Now you go deeper. You compare, well, what did our pre-job material orders say? Were we overspending from the beginning, or did we have a forecast that we didn't hit? So you start to find out, were your jobs misscoped from the get-go? Was it because of waste? Was it missed returns? Or was it change orders that weren't captured? And as you spot trends, now you build controls to fix the problems that are leaking profit in your business. For example, throughout this process, you notice that your team isn't doing a good job of making sure materials are getting returned. Well, now you build a standard operating procedure or a checklist to make sure that every job gets reviewed, to make sure that materials are getting returned. And now that problem doesn't happen again. And that's just one example, because you're going to find out all kinds of different things when you start tracking at this level that are leaking profit. And now you build systems and checklists to prevent them from happening again. And you can do some really cool things like build in accountability layers. And you can build rules that, for example, any job that has a 1% variance from our job forecast gets what we call an RCA, which is a root cause analysis. And let's say that anytime you have a job that goes over a 1% variance, your production manager is required to do that root cause analysis to figure out why things went wrong. Was it a material overage? Was it misscoped? Did we pay the crew too much? And anything that goes higher, for example, could go directly to you to review or a general manager to review. Now we built in real life accountability into our job profitability system. And this isn't all about, just holding people accountable. You can have fun with this too. You can gamify this. You can incentivize your teams who hit gross profit targets and material and labor targets. And you can actually reward your team for generating more profitable jobs. And now to them, this starts to become a game. Profitability becomes fun. Now, I hope you're excited, and I've given you a ton of stuff that you can work on in your business. But guys, AI can absolutely supercharge this. So let's go back to AI for a second, because in my mind, this is where things get super interesting, right? With information like this, we can make some good decisions, but a machine that has access to data and tons of information that can operate at a super high level can do a lot of really cool stuff for us. So what we've put together is a job costing audit prompt, and we spent a lot of time fine tuning this. It's kind of crazy, but I want to show you this. So let me open it up here. And guys, this thing is pretty beastly here, but our first prompt here is our AI production manager job cost audit. And this thing has a ton of info. We spent a lot of time getting this right and telling it exactly how we wanted to do this, what to review, and how to give us that information out. I want you to take a look here. We got the root cause analysis that we talked about earlier. We got all the important rules, how we want it to act, the context, all that kind of stuff. And that's the first one here. And the really cool thing about this prompt is I can go into a chat, I can put that prompt in, I can upload the material orders for my job that we created earlier, I can upload the work orders that we created, and then I can upload the actual invoices for a material and the invoices from our subcontracting crews, and I can have the AI analyze the job for us with that very detailed prompt we've created. And this thing is when I act like an AI-powered production manager. That's when I look at every line of your material order versus your invoice to see were there items missing that are on the invoice that weren't in our forecast. It's going to look at the quantities and compare those. It's going to look for pricing discrepancies. It's going to show you a detailed root cause analysis of what actually made this job go over budget. Not only that, it's going to give you actionable recommendations and next steps, all structured and spit it out super fast. Now, if you were to try to do that by yourself, that's a lot, right? Reviewing jobs manually, trying to compare line items from material orders to invoices and subcontracting invoices takes a lot of time. Well, this thing does it automatically, and it does it better than any human could. So what does that replace? Well, it replaces hours of work, or worse, a lot of companies aren't even doing this at all and are letting their business bleed profit. But for us, that's just one of the prompts that we use, because we can let AI analyze the entire business, right? And we can ask questions like, how much are we spending on materials every month? What are we wasting on materials? Which of our crews are most profitable, right? So within that same document, like our next prompt here is that we can actually feed it our entire dashboard here, and we got this whole master prompt here. That is what I review it at a CFO and high-level production manager standpoint, and come back and tell us where the business is making money, where it's losing money, where are the performance gaps, our cost structure inefficiencies, and what are our opportunities to improve profitability and scalability. And we really fine-tuned this thing to look at crews, to look at trades, to look at sales, all of our different costs, and not just give us the information, but say, hey, what action plans can you create from this? And we also did this for the input tab. So we have all these individual jobs that we're putting into this sheet. Well, let's have the AI analyze it and make use of that information. So again, just another super detailed prompt that reviews that and will give us back actionable insights to help us make our business more profit. And that's what it's all about at the end of the day. So I want you to think about this for a second. I want you to imagine how much different your business could be with this type of visibility. Having clear targets established in place for your production team to know exactly how profitable jobs should be, what material costs should be, what labor costs should be, and having in those accountability layers that we talked about and continuous insight into what's actually happening on your jobs and what it's costing you. Well, guys, that's what a system like this unlocks. So my final thought for you here is, at the end of the day, this isn't about some spreadsheet that we put together. It's not even about AI. This is about actually taking control of one of the biggest financial levers in your business, because once you understand where your money is going and why it's happening, you can actually fix it. And that's how you actually change things. So guys, if you want everything that you've seen here today, if you want the entire system, all the spreadsheets I showed you, all the AI prompts, the job analysis sheet, all that kind of stuff, and I should have put a link down below where you can grab a copy of it and start implementing it today. And I know there's a few of you out there thinking this, so I'll go ahead and say this too. If you're thinking like, hey, there's no way that my team's going to be able to live in a spreadsheet and enter this information in, that's fine. we got you covered there too, because we're actually rolling this out with a small group of companies where all the things you see there, we're building into a customized app for their business where they can enter in their job costs. Super, super simple. So I'll include that link down below. It'll be on the same page that you can buy all the templates. You just request more info and we'll go from there. So I hope this unlocks some good stuff for you guys, and we will see you in the next one.